Today I'm going to share with you two easy and very different ways to add colour using the layering inks from Altenew. Welcome to another Take Two with Therese at Altenew, and today I have the beautiful Builder Flower Narcissus. This is a gorgeous daffodil layering stamp set, and I'm going to be sharing with you two different ways to add colour using the layering inks from Altenew. Now this set is a layering stamp set and also has a coordinating die set, which is what you'll always find with the Builder Flower sets. So what I'm doing here is working out my layers because I want to do a no line colour image here. Now this is the great thing about these sets, they often come with the outline as well as the layering stamps, and I've got the most solid stamp here, which is going to be my base image, and I'm just conditioning that with the conditioning eraser from Altenew, which works really well. It just because this is a brand new stamp and it's a solid image, by using this eraser on there, it just allows the ink to take up on the photopolymer a little bit easier, and once you've used the stamp a few times you won't need to do this at all. Actually, I'm not going to need to do it more than once today. What I've got here is my misties, and I want to do multiple stamping and make it really quick and easy. This stamp has many layers and they're all included on the packaging. You can find how to layer each stamp, and if you're not sure, if it looks a little bit complicated, you can always refer to the packaging, and you can also find links to the layering guide at the product in the online Altenew store. So what I've got here is a piece of copy paper, and this is just allowing me to kind of work out exactly where my layers are going to be. I have used different corners of my misty, and my paper is cut to different sizes because I'm just using scrap pieces of Nina 80-pound cardstock. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that when I pop the image up into the top corner here, that I always keep that bottom, from where the bottom nesting corner was, I put that up into the top. That way, it doesn't matter what size my paper is, it's always going to be stamped in the same direction. So I have 3 different misties here, and I use the corner of every single one of them for this image. Like I said, it has multiple layers, but I am going to show you a bit later on how to do this with just one misty. So now I'm actually stamping out my images for real. To keep a kind of really pale base of the flower, I'm actually going to use the same color twice. So that's going to give me a real subtle layered effect. So this is the most pale color. It's called pale mauve. So basically I'm just creating multiple flowers at the same time. I'm not having to realign my stamps. This is a really quick and easy way. If I'm going to go to the effort of lining up my images, my stamps to create such a beautiful flower, I might as well make a few while I'm here. And it's even good, if you can get in the habit of it, is to make a few extra just to keep in the package, and if you need a card in a hurry, you're ready to go. And doesn't this last layer really bring this beautiful flower to life? That's the plum color. I also created the same flower here using the Tranquility set, and I was slightly off on my judgment, but it's easy to fix. Just get a colored pencil that's exactly the same color, or you can actually pick a little bit of the ink up and drop it in there with a really fine Q-tip or something like that. So this is how I stamp out a layered image if I'm using one misty. I basically stamp out all my base layer, all my second layer, all my third layer, but I will do them on opposite sides of cardstock, flip my cardstock around, and that way I don't have to realign each time. So I do all the base layer first, then I can remove the Stamp, line up the second layer and stamp that through, and then line up the third layer and stamp that through with the darkest ink. And of course, because I'm doing the no line layering stamping, I'm not using that outline of the image. And this particular flower and leaf image, it's really easy to work out how it's going to look even without the outline layer. Some of them are a little bit complicated, but this one's an easy one. So how simple is that? And I use the coordinating die here to die cut all of my images. Now if you don't have a MISTI, you can still do this. Best way is through a clear block, and then you can just hover over the image and just stamp each layer. And you can still do it in production line style and it'll work out beautifully. And you'd be a much better stamper than me, because I'm not good with some of these layering images, and the MISTI just takes the guesswork out of it. Now the second way that I'm going to colour my images today is watercolouring. Did you know that you can use Altenew's crisp dye inks to watercolour with? It's very simple to do. I've simply just got one of the medium palettes here off to the side, smooshed my ink pad directly onto the palette, added a little bit of water, and then I'm picking up the ink with a brush and dropping it into my image. I have actually heat embossed the images on some of the watercolor cardstock here, so this is going to tolerate quite a bit of water if I need to, but I really didn't add a lot of water to these images. One little trick here though is to, when you're dropping in the color, is to start at the outer edge of the petal and then drop the color, lift your brush up at the inner portion of the petal, like where it hits the center of the flower, and that's going to be where the ink will be darkest. It'll drop the puddle there, so that will make that look more like a shadow. The other thing is to allow time for it to dry in between adding layers. Don't rush this. You can hit it with a heat tool. Just be careful not to reheat the embossing powder, otherwise it does lose a bit of its shine. And these colours would have to be some of my favourites from Altenew. And I don't think the purples and the blues are available in their markers or watercolour brushes. I will have to check that out. But the ink pads, you can use them like I'm doing here and still create that watercolour look. Painting with your inks is a really good way to stretch your supplies and also get the exact colour that you want. And I did die cut these as well using the coordinating dies. So it's time to put my cards together now. I'm going to work on my no line layering stamp card first. I've got one of the circled sentiments here and stamping it out with some obsidian black ink and use the coordinating die to cut it out. I've got my jet black ink and splattering background panel. It's the same as my A2 card. This is a top fold card, and I just add that to the front with some glue tape, and then it's just a matter of creating my bouquet. I am layering it up. Some of the flowers are directly on the card base, others are up with some foam tape. I did cut my leaves in half because I've got so many flowers on the front of the card. I'm using 3 on each card. I found it easier just to cut the leaves down and get more bang for my buck. I got 2 out of 1. And I did pop up my sentiment on the front of the card as well. Now this stamen on these flowers I did draw in with one of the must-have gel pens. It's the white one, because there is a coordinating stamp in the set to stamp that out, but I'd already finished stamping and cutting and I've missed that altogether. It's just easier to draw it in afterwards. My second card here, I'm using a sentiment from the Fancy Greetings set and just doing a sort of ombre effect with the Nature's Wonders inks here and just creating like a darker base on the word you. I did some splatters as well on this card. This is a side fold card, But this time I used some of the ink, smushed it on the palette and picked it up with the brush and sputtered it on that way. And then I did layer up my bouquet again. The reason I did add a second layer for the jet black ink, just in case you're wondering, is it does seep through the cardstock and I didn't want it to be visible on the inside of my card. But if that doesn't bother you, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. And I didn't think I was going to like this card very much, but in the end, this one turned out to be my favourite. So let me know in the comments below which one is your favourite. Is it the watercolour look with the inks, or the no-line layered stamping with the inks? If you want some more inspiration for stamp layering or watercolouring, click on one of these videos that's coming up here now. And if you like today's video, please click on the thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'd love to have you join my channel. And until next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.